Educational Information and Communication Technology presents Educational Satellite Television Programs.
Hello, teacher. Hello, students. Welcome to our lesson on lipids. In our last lesson, we learned about a test involving Benedict's reagent that can be done to determine the presence of reducing sugar and non-reducing sugar. Today, we are going to begin a study on lipids. We will describe the structure of lipids, as well as focus on fatty acids and glycerol. Let us begin right away. Lipids are a large and diverse range of organic compounds. Such compounds as fats, waxes, phospholipids, oils, and other similar compounds are all considered lipids. Lipids have similar properties because they are all molecules made of the same elements with similar chemical structures, but the structures and properties do vary slightly. Lipids contain the same elements as carbohydrates: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. However, lipids contain far less oxygen than carbohydrates. Triglycerides are lipids that are formed from glycerol and 3 fatty acids. Phospholipids are formed from glycerol, 2 fatty acids, and a phosphate group. Waxes are formed from fatty acids and long-chain alcohols. Some lipids have large molecules, but they are not polymers. Therefore, lipid molecules tend to be relatively small. The common feature that all lipids share is that they are all made from fatty acids and alcohols. This means that they have a range of functions. Lipids are hydrophobic. This means that they repel water and are insoluble. In other words, lipids do not dissolve in water. The tail of the lipid molecule is hydrophobic, while the head of some lipid molecules, like phospholipids or fatty acids, are hydrophilic. The term hydrophilic means attracted to water. Because these lipids have 2 opposing ends with different polarity, they are nonpolar, while water is polar. This explains when an oil or fat is added to water. It does not mix, and you can see the 2 layers. Students, it is time for an activity. Please answer the following questions. What elements make up lipids? How do lipids vary? Is a lipid hydrophobic or hydrophilic? Are lipids water-soluble?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, everyone. This should have been a fairly simple activity for you. Let us go over the answers. The elements that make up lipids are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. If you also said that there is less oxygen in lipids than there is in carbohydrates, then you must really be paying attention today. Lipids vary by structure and properties. Lipids are hydrophobic. Lipids are not water-soluble. How did you do? If you answered every question correctly, well done. All lipids are organic compounds. This means that they all contain carbon and hydrogen in their chemical makeup. The structure and chemical bonding of the carbon atoms differs among the different types of lipid molecules. This differing structure is what gives each lipid a slightly different property. Glycerol and fatty acids are used to make up most lipids. Glycerol is a polyhydroxy of alcohol. It contains 3 carbon atoms, each bond to one hydroxyl group, negative OH. A fatty acid molecule consists of a covalently bonded hydrocarbon chain. This is a chain of carbon atoms bonded to each other and to one or more hydrogen atoms. At the end of this chain is a carboxyl group. This is an acid radical negative charged COOH functional group. It releases protons into an aqueous solution to make the solution acidic. Bonding between the carbon atoms in the fatty acid chain has 2 main effects on hydrocarbon chains. First, the number of the carbon atoms can vary. Second, the hydrocarbon chains with the same number of carbon atoms can have different numbers of hydrogen atoms. There are 2 main types of fatty acids: saturated and unsaturated. If the carbon-to-carbon bonds are single, then the fatty acid is a saturated fatty acid. If the carbon-to-carbon bonds are a single double, then it is a monosaturated fatty acid. If more than one carbon-to-carbon bond is a double bond, then it is a polyunsaturated fatty acid. Students, what is meant by a single or double bond in a fatty acid?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello again, everyone. I hope you were able to answer this question. A single or double bond means the bonds between the carbon atoms in the hydrocarbon chain. Saturated fatty acids have a single bond, and unsaturated fatty acids have one or more double bonds. Did you write down the same answers? If so, great work. We have time for one more activity. Students, in what two ways does bonding between the carbon atoms in the fatty acid chain affect the hydrocarbon chains?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello once again, class. The bonding between the carbon atoms in the fatty acid chain affect the hydrocarbon chains in the following ways. The number of carbon atoms in the chain varies, and hydrocarbon chains with the same number of carbon atoms can have a different number of hydrogen atoms. Did you write down the same answer? Well done. If you were not able to remember this information, please review your notes and the section on lipids in your textbook. This brings us to the end of our lesson. Today, we learned about lipids. We studied the structure and function of lipids. We also learned about the structure of glycerol and fatty acids. Until next lesson, thank you, teacher. Thank you, students.